What's going on, Jerome's? So some NFL news as one team, at least, has re-signed their quarterback. Baker Mayfield is running back with the Buccaneers. Now, the Bucs already brought back Mike Evans, and now they got their QB back in town. And Baker, former number one overall pick out of Oklahoma, resurrected his career. You do like to see it for Baker, so really happy for him. This from NFL and ESPN. Breaking: Tampa Bay and quarterback Baker Mayfield are closing in on a 3-year deal for $100 million in total, $50 million guaranteed. A souse told Jeremy Fowler. Mayfield confirmed the deal in a statement to Adam Schefter. And details, as of right now, are $30 million this year, $30 million next year, plus $20 million guaranteed. So the $50 million is $30 and $20 from 2024, 2025. Is there no signing bonus? It's weird. 2026, $40 million, but of course that's more like a team option, toilet paper, blah, 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 blah. $5 million per year in incentives, so it can max out at $115 over 3 years. So just south of $38 million in terms of compensation. That's relatively low. Like it barely makes the chart, just slightly above Derek Carr in terms of average per season if he does hit all of the incentives. So barely notching in around the top 12, top 13 area. But Baker does seem happy, and it seems like he found himself a home in Tampa Bay. Now, of course, we can't just say, oh, skull production value. Hey, good job, Baker. But, of course, it all comes back to us. What does this mean for me? Because we are very narcissistic on this channel. What does it mean for the Vikings and Kirk Cousins situation? And you could say, well, how does the Baker situation affect Kirk? Tangentially, but in an important way, because it does take one of the fallback options off the table, both a fallback for Kirk as well as a fallback for the Vikings. And for the Vikings, so if Kirk left, say if Kirk signed with Atlanta, and if Baker and Tampa Bay were far apart, I mean, you could have saw a world where the Vikings would have potentially signed Baker Mayfield. And I said that the worst scenario for me would have been to sign Baker to a 2-3 year deal and then not draft a quarterback. I think that would be the worst situation. Now, it would be palatable if they also drafted a quarterback. And the same thing I would advocate the Vikings for do. Even if Kirk Cousins resign, they should draft a quarterback. But that does take – it really takes the only viable starting option off the table. Now, yes, Russ, whatever. But there isn't really anyone else out there outside of Cousins and Baker that you're like, okay, here's the keys to the kingdom for the next 2 to 3 seasons. So, I mean, it's not Tannehill, it's not Jabroni Brisket, it's not Ty God, it's not Mariota, it's not even Sam Darnold. It's not Jameis, although Jameis may be entertaining. Minshew, I mean, is more of a veteran bridge quarterback, but it's not a guy that you're just going to be like, hey, that is our dude long term. Also, for Kirk, now there hadn't been any connections between Kirk and the Buccaneers that I remember seeing, like really concrete wise. But if Baker had left, that could have been an option, because the Buccaneers do seem to be like, hey, we like our guy Baker, and we're going to rock and roll with him. They're drafting in the late 20s, so probably out of range for one of the top tier quarterbacks. So if Baker had left, maybe they would have gotten in the Kirk Derby. Who knows? But he didn't, so they're not, so it doesn't really matter. Number 2, does this set the market for Falcons and Vikings? And like we said, the Baker deal is relatively low. Now, yes, you could say, well, it's Baker, but Baker did quite well last year. Won the division, won a playoff game, threw for over 4,000 yards, 28 touchdowns, 10 picks, 94.6 quarterback rating, and really proved that he belonged in Tampa Bay. Has a nice rapport with Mike Evans. Also is... He is 7 years younger than Kirk Cousins. So it's tough to say. It's like, hey, well, it's just Baker versus Kirk, and Baker's getting just over 38. Of course, Kirk's going to get like 46, 47, 48. Not so fast, my friend. And again, if the Vikings are just say, hey, here's our offer, take it or leave it, the Falcons, why would they bid against themselves? Why would they drive up the price against themselves in terms of average per season as well as guarantees into year 2, year 3? Why would they do that? So I think that even with the salary cap going up, maybe the Kirk Cousins market could be a little bit more tepid than you would think. Because, again, 7/8 years older than Baker, as well as coming off an Achilles. And Baker's coming off a damn good year as well. And like I said, does this set the market for Kirko? Or maybe Kirk Cousins was looking for that $45-50 million a year type range. Talk about Deshaun or Kyler or Russell Wilson. Jalen Hurts type money. But maybe Baker's deal, and Baker was the number 2 viable free agent quarterback option out there. maybe that lowers expectations on all sides. So does the Baker back to the Bucs deal necessarily affect the Vikings? A little bit, tangentially, because it does take one of the seats away in terms of the musical chairs, as well as it does set a precedent of this free agency cycle where, Baker is the number 2 viable free agent quarterback on the market, where it's like, hey, this is Baker's price. The 3 years, $100 million with 50 guaranteed, max up to 115. That's where we're at, Kirk. So, hey, you're up here. Baker's down here. Let's meet in the middle. So I think that it is an actual important piece to come in. And I'm actually kind of glad that it happened before Kirk decides what he's going to do with the Vikings and the Falcons. And it does add a new variable to the calculus. But could we just get this over with? I understand it's fun to talk about, and things seem to change like every 10 minutes. I was like, oh, sources say that Kirk is doing this, and he likes Chick-fil-A now. I don't know. Who doesn't like Chick-fil-A? It's chicken sandwiches, man. For your thoughts on our thoughts, Buccaneers run it back with Baker Mayfield. How does this affect Kirk Cousins' legacy? Let us know in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. You know what to do. Skol, production value.